I was going to suffer, I run. Or if I got a situation where a bunch of stress was starting to build up, I dumped that. I run, you know, yeah, because I didn't want to suffer. And at that time, of course, I was running from the things that God said not to do, you know, because I felt like that doing those things were going to benefit me somehow. Telling a lie could benefit me. It might put money in my pocket, or you know, it might allow me to manipulate someone into getting something that I wanted. You know, obviously stealing was going to benefit me. You know, all these things that God says not to do was going to benefit me somehow or other. And so that I run from what he says not to do. But after a while, man, sitting in jail long enough, being strung out long enough, being alone long enough, being hated long enough, man, I mean, I don't know what, yeah, all those things, I was like, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. Just saying, I'm not going to do that no more, yeah. And I want to do what God said. But the problem is that when God started telling me to do something, I was like, nah, God, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Yeah. And I'm going to run. And when I run, guess what I run to? I run back to the same old thing that I had always did. You know, because doing what God was asking me to do was bringing the amount of suffering in my life. Because that was meaning that I was going to have to be responsible. You know? Yeah, which meant that I would have to endure stress for this care that I carried for other people, for myself, man, for my job, whatever the situation was. Yeah. And so I learned from what God said to do. Until finally, you know, I couldn't run no more. Sitting in the penitentiary, I almost know where to run to, man. You know? Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. There was nowhere to run to. Alright. And this is when I faced God. There's this man today that we're gonna read about here. It's a short book, it's only like 4 chapters. Of course, I don't think we're gonna read all of them. We're probably gonna read, yeah, the first 3 chapters. We want to look at this man's story and see if we can't compare it to our experiences in life. Yeah. This is chapter 1, verse 1. Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it, for their wickedness is come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and he went down to Joppa, and there he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof, and went inside of it to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken apart. And then the sailors were afraid, and cried every man unto his God. And they cast forth the goods that they had on the ship into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and there he lay fast asleep. So the captain came to him and said unto him, What meanest thou, O sleeper? Rise up, call upon that God. If so be that God will think upon us that we perish not. And they said, every one unto his brother, Come, let us cast lots, that we may know for whose cause this evil has come upon us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. And then they said unto him, Tell us, we pray thee, for whose cause this evil is upon us. What is thine occupation, and where do thou come from? And he said unto them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, which hath made the sea and the dry land. Then the men were exceedingly afraid, and said unto him, Why hast thou done this? For the men knew that he fled from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. And then they said unto him, What shall we do unto thee, that the sea may be calm unto us? For the sea was wrought and was tempestuous. And he said unto them, Take me up, and cast me forth into the sea, so that the sea shall be calm unto you. For I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you. Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to bring the boat unto dry land, but they could not, for the sea was wrought. Wherefore they cried unto the Lord, and said, We beseech thee, O Lord, we beseech thee, let us not perish for this man's life, and name not upon us his innocent blood, for thou, O Lord, hast done as it has pleased thee. So they took up Jonah, and they cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly, and offered the sacrifice unto the Lord, and made vows. Now, the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord God out of the fish's belly, and said, I cried by my reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice. For thou hast cast me into the deep, in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed all around me, and all thy billows and thy waves have passed over me. Then I said, I am cast out of thy sight. Yet I will look again toward thy holy temple. The waters encompassed me round about, even to my soul. The depths closed in around me, and the weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains, and the earth with her bars was about me forever. Yet thou hast brought up my life from corruption, O Lord my God. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came in unto thee, unto thy holy temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy, but I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. I will that I have vowed salvation is of the Lord. And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city after a day's journey. And he cried and said, Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So the people of Nineveh believed God, and proclaimed a fast, and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything, and let them feed not and drink no water. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and cry mightily unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from his evil way, and from the violence that is in their hands. For who can tell if God will turn and repent, and turn away from his fierce anger, that we perish not? And God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not. Jonah was just a man, just like the rest of us. And the Lord spoke to Jonah. You know, one of the things I think that I wanted more than anything was to hear the voice of God. I wanted God to tell me. I don't know about you brothers, man, but, you know, I couldn't trust anybody. You know, I'm just saying. You know, it's one of the first things we learn kicking it on the street is you can't trust nobody. Everybody's out to get you, to use you, to take from you, whatever, man. You can't trust a single solitary soul. But there came a point in my life, man, when I wanted to be right. I wanted to do the right thing. The problem was who was I going to listen to tell me what that right thing was? That's all I'm asking. Who can tell me what's right? Because if you've done wrong, man, that probably ain't got time for you. You just a hypocrite like everybody else. Yeah, all right. Well, that's the very thing that made me turn to Jesus Christ. Because Jesus was the only person that I knew of that had never done no wrong. Understand? And if I was going to listen to what somebody tell me what was right, it had to be that guy. It had to be that guy. Yeah. Jonah, after hearing God speak to him, and God told him to do something for him. You know, brothers, I told you all earlier that God is speaking to all of us, right here. I know I wanted to hear God's voice. I wanted him to speak to me because I wanted proof. I wanted proof. And if God spoke to me out of the booming voice in the sky, then there could be no doubt. Yeah. Well, Jesus said that only an evil generation seeketh after a sign and to believe by it. You understand? That was Jesus worked miracles in front of the Pharisees, and it didn't matter how many miracles he worked, man. They wanted to see another one. Show us another one. Show us another one. There was never enough. But God has already did all that he needs to do to prove his existence to us. It's all around us. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, it's all around us. All right. God spoke to Jonah and told Jonah to go to Nineveh. Nineveh, Damascus. Anybody ever heard of a city called Damascus? Yeah. This was the country of Nineveh at that time, and Damascus was the capital city of this place. Man. Yeah. All right. Now, this is where God wanted Jonah to go. He wanted Jonah to preach to these people this message that he had given to him. Now, we don't understand why Jonah didn't want to go. It doesn't tell us why he didn't want to go, and I think that's on purpose, because the object here is for us to be able to relate to Jonah, but not to Jonah's circumstances in his flesh, in this world, in his behavior. What we need to identify with is the relationship that he had with God. And in this moment, he began to run from what God was asking of him. Yeah, I told you all in the welcoming, man, that, you know, that's the one thing that we've all done. Every single one of us on the face of this earth has run from God. Absolutely. Those of you who are going through the program or been through 12 steps, so on and so forth, you know, they tell you that you got to change your mind. You know, yeah, I'm just saying, you got to change your mind about something, man. First and foremost, I suppose that the first thing that you got to change your mind about is that you're a drug addict. Now, secondly, you're going to have to change your mind about drugs being bad. Yeah, because all this time you thought they were good. You enjoyed them. You wanted them. Whatever the case may be, man. So you have to change your mind. No, this is not good. Yeah. And it's so that when God told Jonah to go out there, Jonah was like, no, I ain't going. And I'm going to run. Just like we all have, brothers. That's the one thing every single one of us has done, is run from God. Because the one thing that we have not done, it was think the way that God is telling us to think. You understand? This is the only change any of y'all are ever going to be able to make and find success in, brothers, because that's the one thing you have not done, was think the way that God says to think. You understand? Does that make sense, doesn't it, though? Yeah? Alright. This is what repent means. To change your mind, man. And this is the only way that none of us have ever thought of. This is what we have all run from. So, Jonah was like, nah, I ain't doing that. I don't want to go there. And he run from God, as if he could run from God. Firstly, I mean, how you going to run from God, brothers? I'm just, I'm not asking. I mean, he's omnipotent, he's omniscient, he's omnipresent. I mean, how you going to run from God? All right, you can't. You can't. But Jonah decided that he was going to. I don't really think he was wanting to run from God. I think he was just wanting to run from Nineveh. He was wanting to run from Damascus, because Nineveh was Tarshish was across the Mediterranean, which happens to be the place that Saul is from, by the way. Saul, who became Paul. Yeah, all right. And when he got into the boat, they got out there on the ocean, and all of a sudden, wind started blowing. Waves started getting bigger and bigger, crashing over the boat and stuff, man. You know, yeah. This great storm had came out of nowhere upon this boat that Jonah was in. Now the other guys that was on the boat, man, they were like, damn, this is bad. This is bad. We gotta start getting rid of stuff. We're gonna sink, man. This water's swamping us. Yeah. And it wasn't doing them no good. And they started looking around themselves, wondering, man, they knew that this was not normal. You understand? They knew that. They knew that this situation was not normal. This is the reason why everybody starts calling on their God. Yeah, all right. But Jonah, in the midst of the storm, was laying down in that boat fast asleep, oblivious to what was going on around him, man. Had no idea what was going on around him. Yeah. Finally, one of them sailors was like, wake up, man, wake up. We're going to die. Call on your God. Find out what's going on. Help. Jonah had no idea. You know, I think that that's a really good example for us, man. You know, because once we started running from God, this typically happens for most of us. It's probably somewhere we're in our teens. We start to become teenagers. We know everything, man. We're going to live our lives our own way. We know better than everybody else. You know what I'm just saying, yeah? And finally that day comes when we get out that door, man, and we're going. I'm going to live my life my way by all the things I said I'm going to do and be. Yeah, all right. Jonah, fast asleep. Well, as you know, the storm came upon us at some point in our lives. You know, I don't know. I guess for me, well, I guess the storm that probably came upon me because of my own behavior was probably after I got out the Army. Because I went crazy. I started using drugs, running wild. I was a fool, man. Yeah, all right. What I didn't understand, like Jonah, that there was even a storm around me. I didn't even know I was in the midst of a storm. Man, I'm just having fun, and if it's not fun, I'm moving on to something else. Whatever, yeah. One place to the next, to the next, to the next. But those people who were around me, they knew there was a storm. They knew that there was a problem, but I was oblivious to it, fast asleep to it, man. Yeah. Until finally, at some point in the middle of the storm, somebody woke me up and let me know that I was in the storm, man. Yeah. And the scriptures tell us that the men cast lots to find out who the problem was. Whose God, who the problem was. And casting lots is like rolling the dice, man. Yeah. And it says the lot fell to Jonah. These people back in these days, they set precedent on that, you know, casting lots. It's not the only time we read about this in the scriptures, man. Yeah, all right. And at any rate, the lot fell to Jonah, and Jonah knew. Jonah knew then why this was happening. Because God had spoken to him and told him to go and do this thing that he was running from, man. Yeah. And he figured then that because this was his fault, the only way to get this situation to change was for them to cast him overboard. They had to get rid of him. Notice how many people have turned their backs on us because they had to. Not just because they wanted to, but because they had to, man. Their ship was like to be sunk because of us. Because of our stealing and our lying and the police coming to get us every other day, all the craziness that we've gone through, man, they had to let us go. You understand? Yeah. That's what happened to me. Had to let me go, man. I was sinking the ship. I was ruining everything. Just saying. Yeah. Well, the men didn't want to do this. They didn't want to throw Jonah overboard, man. They didn't even know Jonah and they didn't want to throw him overboard. I'm just saying. Brothers and sisters, the people who have turned their backs on us didn't do it because they wanted to. They did it because they had to. It wasn't because they didn't love us. It was because we left them no other choice, man. Yes. And so the men picked Jonah up, they cast him overboard. Got rid of him. And immediately, seas calm again. No more storm, man. This is what happened to those people who got rid of us. You understand? Had to turn their back on us. I don't know if that's right or wrong, good or bad. I don't know. You know, I do know there's a time and place for everything. According to Solomon, a time and place for everything. And I do believe that there's a time and place for people to turn their backs on us. My wife discovered that. We got married in June 2013, and within probably about 8 months, I was back to shoot and go just about every day, if not every day. Yeah. And, you know, she'd never encountered a problem like that before. She never really lived around somebody like that. She may have knew people like that, but she never had a relationship on a daily basis with a person like that. Yeah. And she done all that she thought to do, you know. Of course she did. But eventually, she came to see that it was futile. These men were rowing this boat with all their might, and it was futile. Wasn't helping nobody. And she had to let me go. She had to turn me over to the Lord. Lead me to the will of God. But the way that she did that was she left me. Yeah, all right. The will of God for Jonah in this case, when they cast him overboard, was that God had prepared this great fish. We just assumed that it was a whale, you know, it's about the biggest fish to be able to swallow somebody whole. Yeah, all right. Yeah. God had prepared this fish. Instead of letting Jonah drown in the ocean, this fish come up and swallowed him. Which I find significant, to be honest, because in the belly of that fish, Jonah couldn't run no more. I'm just saying, he couldn't run no more. Yeah, okay. And he suffered an affliction, man, in this place. Yeah, it says that, you know, it was dark. He had seaweed wrapped around his head, you know, 3 days and nights in the belly of this fish. Yeah, I don't know about the, you know, I took a little biology in school and stuff, and I don't know too much about the digestive juices in an animal like that, but I have to imagine they exist. He said, out of the belly of hell cried I. I'm guessing them digestive juices was burning his skin. He probably thought he was in hell. According to Jesus, it's a dark place. A place where there's much weeping and gnashing of teeth, man. There's no light. Alright. But it said, in this place, in this affliction that Jonah was suffering, this darkness, I don't even know, I can't even imagine what that would have smelled like, man. Really? Yeah. Burning our skin and stuff. It says, in the midst of my affliction, I remembered the Lord. I remembered the Lord. Some of you have been remembering the Lord, folks. I understand whether it was in your addiction, or maybe you was like me, incarcerated, I don't know. But because of the affliction which is in your heart, you remembered the Lord. And you called upon him, man. Please, God. Please. Please, God, help me. Please, God, I don't want to be this person no more. I don't want to do these things no more. I don't want people to look at me like this no more. I don't want to be known for this anymore. Please, God. Yeah. Brothers, when you cry out to the Lord with a true and genuine desire, God will move for you, man. I'm standing here today for that very reason. That's the only reason I'm standing here today, brothers. Straight up. Because God moved for me. I don't know about you all, but I prayed to a lot of different gods. I studied old Voodoo, man. I'm just saying, I studied Hinduism. I read the Mahabharata. I was in all of it. Somebody answer me. It was Jesus Christ who answered me, man. Just saying. Because my desire was genuine. No doubt about it. Right. Anyway, God heard Jonah. I want you to think about this now. Jonah was out in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean somewhere, in the belly of this fish. And when he cried out to God, God heard him. That fish vomited him out. Where did he vomit him out at? On dry land. I'm just saying, what's the chances of that? Seriously. Right, exactly right. He's out in the middle of the ocean, man. The whale ain't got legs, he ain't crawling up to the beach. And yet, when he got rid of Jonah, he landed on dry land. Brothers, when God moves for you with that true and genuine desire, you will land on the rock. You will land on firm foundation, brothers. Of that, there can be no doubt. Trust that. God will provide, brothers. God will provide. It just because it doesn't seem like it to you, doesn't mean it's not true. Yeah. I bet Jonah was pretty happy to be out of the belly of that fish, man. I'm just saying. And I can prove it. You know what? I can prove to you how happy Jonah was to be out of the belly of that fish. Said God came to Jonah again and said, okay, go to Nineveh and preach this message I'm giving you. Yeah. It says Nineveh was a 3 days journey. 3 days, what it said. And it said that Jonah began to enter the city after 1 day. Now, first time I read that story, I was like, man, that's like supernatural. Something supernatural must have happened. You know, it's 3 days away, and then he got there after 1 day, you know. But then I realized something. that I can run just about 3 times faster than I can walk. That man ran the entire way to this place. Brothers, don't you understand? This was how happy, this was how passionate, how zeal, how true his desire was. He ran the entire way to get to this place, man. This thing that God had told him to do. That's what's important, brothers. How strong is your desire? How bad was it really? Huh? How bad was it really? Because, you know, I've run across some people who had an addiction, like energy drinks was their addiction. You know, they turned to gas for their deliverance or whatever. And I'm not picking on it, man. Hey, maybe so, but, you know, I have a hard time relating to that. You know, I have a hard time seeing this kind of zeal and passion that Jonah displayed when he ran the entire day to get to this place, and somebody had an addiction to energy drink. I don't know. But my question is, brothers, how bad was it? You know, I forgot. I truly did. It's been a long time since I had my affliction like that. It was around May of 2014 when that just the worst gut-wrenching heartache I had ever felt in my life. Yeah. And it wasn't that long ago, probably about almost 2 months now, this guy came up to me. I don't know where, most unlikeliest of people to speak to me about these things, something that he was going through. And it was very similar to what I had went through then. And he started breaking down in front of me. You know, this is a big, proud, boasting, braggart kind of person. You know, he's never going to let you see him sweat. You know, yeah. And he started breaking down in front of me, somebody that he saw as being beneath him. You know, yeah, all right. And it reminded me of the pain that he must be going through for him to break down like that. It reminded me of what that was and what that felt like. I tried my best to counsel him from the scriptures, and I hope that he took it and takes it and life changes for him. But it reminded me, man. Yeah, it reminded me. How bad was it really, brothers? You know, sometimes I guess because life hasn't really been that bad for me. It's been pretty good, man. You know, yeah, it's been pretty doggone good. I've had everything I've needed, man. I've never had to ask for $1. I'm just, you know, life has not been that bad. Yeah. Now, I've gone through some things. That's taken some strength to overcome my fears. Yeah. A lot of why, God, why? Yeah, all right. But that gut-wrenching heartache, no, I haven't felt that. Sure haven't. Life's been pretty good. And my question is, how long will you run, brothers? How long will you run? Because this race is not a short one. It's for the rest of your lives. Understand this running that we've got to do, man. Paul says that, you know, in this world, people, you know, they run a race, and they do it to win a crown, you know, a corruptible crown, some trophy or other that's of this world that's going to pass away. He said, but we who run this race, we run for an incorruptible crown, something that doesn't pass away. And he's telling us that we should run this race so that we would win. Run it to win. Which means you give it your all, because if you don't give it your all and you don't win, what's going to be in your mind the rest of your life, man? If I only done better, if I only gave it my all. I don't ever want to have to live life like that, brothers. Yeah, all right. How far will you run? How long will you run, brothers? How much passion and zeal has that produced in you? How sorry were you for what you did against Gad when you run from Gad? And you know, something else we can look at too to show just how Jonah felt about this. Yeah? It says that he got there and he told the people of Nineveh what it was God had told him to say. And this is a big city, man. Probably about 100,000 people in this city at that time. Yeah, okay. It says every single person in the city, all the way to the king, heard Jonah. And they all listened and did what Jonah said. I don't know, man. I'm just, I'm picturing this. I'm trying to picture this in my mind. You got this guy, he smells like fish guts, his clothes is dirty, he's running already here, he's out of breath, how is he going to talk to these people to get their attention to such a point, to such an extent that every single person listens to him? How much passion has it got to take? How much zeal does that take, man? I've been accused of a lot of things, brothers. One of the things that I've been accused of is being too loud during the message, or being too stern, so on and so forth, whatever, I don't know. And, I'm just over here like, I don't see how anybody that's preaching for the Lord wouldn't be like that. How could you not be like that? What kind of passion, where is this word coming from, man? Yeah, alright. So this is how I picture Jonah speaking to these people, man. Yeah. Whatever ounce of energy and breath he's got, telling these people this thing, man. Yeah. Because they all listen. Even to the king. I mean, the king, man. He's the king. You got this homeless looking bum dude sitting there telling him that God's going to destroy the city if they don't change. Get away from me, man. Guard.